It's something to consider. So, think about this entity. Their market capitalization, what they're worth in real dollars, is worth more than Ford Motor Company, Delta Airlines, McDonald's, U.S. Steel, and Yahoo combined. So when you start thinking about these numbers and the fact that they've done this in the last 11 years, it kind of makes you want to ask, hopefully, different questions, big questions, about where will UNCF be in 11 years? So here's a nice matrix. What I did is I wanted to compare Google's performance with some other companies, some tech, some in other sectors. I chose IBM, Microsoft, Exxon, and Merck specifically because these four institutions have traditionally been known as institutions that have the highest index of PhDs, per total employee base. They invest heavily in research and development, and they often attract people from abroad. Amongst this high index of PhDs, you have a lot of, heavy representation amongst Indian, Asian, Eastern Europeans. So, there are two numbers at the bottom, two rows at the bottom, the value per employee and revenue per employee. And what I did is I took the market capitalization and the revenue and divided it by the total number of employees. And it's almost hard to wrap your head around. But every single person that works at Google generates $1.1 million in revenue per year and contributes $9.5 million in value by simply being there. So when you take the right amount of knowledge and you put it together in an environment that's going to foster it, nothing's impossible, right? There is one little, blurb on that, and that's Exxon. Well, they stole that 5.9 as far as I'm concerned, when we were paying $4, per gallon. So that's Google in a nutshell. Now, let's keep in mind that Google manufactures nothing, ships nothing, retails nothing. You cannot go into Walmart or Publix and buy something from Google. And 99% of its users are not its customers. Anybody in here ever use Google? Anybody ever see Google on their credit card statement? And it's of tremendous value. We use it every day. We'll get to why this dynamic changes the game and why institutions of learning especially have to reconsider the whole model. So I just want to, looking at rows and columns, grid formats, never interesting. So I also just decided to represent that in terms of the bar chart. When you look at the value per employee, it's so off the chart for an organization that's so small, so relatively new, and yet so phenomenally, rich in terms of the amount of value that it's created for itself. So, there's a lot written about how does Google succeed. You can always pick up the New York Times and some pundit is going to tell you about what they're doing right with browsers and search and everything. So, but I was actually able to call a friend who works at Google. And we had a lot of conversations about internally, if we were only Google employees in this room, what kind of conversation would we have in identifying the things that are most important to us? So they actually have an internal statement. It's kind of difficult to get. You got to make a lot of promises, which is what I did. You can see it. So here are the 10 things that Google deems most important for making a great Google user experience. Anytime you're going to initiate a product or service, it has to be useful, fast, simple, engaging, innovative, universal, profitable, beautiful, trustworthy, and personal. Now, if you just look at that without the the background information to it. You say, well, what does that have to do with UNCF? What does that have to do with any, college or university? Well, let's take a look, see if we can get some things to connect here. Useful. In Google terms, useful means focusing on people or focusing on students, their lives, their work, their dreams. Okay, so that's useful. Fast. Nothing is more important. Nothing's more valuable than people's time. There's a lot of questions that we can start asking ourselves about our institutions, our methodologies, our processes. Do we inhibit people's time? If you are, you might want to reconsider. Simple. Simplicity is powerful. Complexity is not. Don't confuse best with hard. When I think about that, I say, well, especially the last part, don't confuse best with hard. A lot of times, especially in education, we can confuse best with hard. The best schools to get into are the hardest schools to get into. But that's not always the case. Go to Europe. Apply to the London School of Economics. It's probably easier to get in there than it is Georgia Peru. Okay? Engaging. Engage beginners and attract experts. They'll take care of the rest. Innovative. Dare to innovate, take risks, change the game. Internal mantra at the Google place. Universal. If you're not being emulated, you're not relevant.
I like that.
A lot of times when we are doing something moderately successful at, we want to keep it close to our breast. We want to keep it a secret. We want to lock it up and make sure nobody steals our stuff. That's my idea. That's my initiative. That's my program. It's only through openness and transparency that you truly reach, the potential that any good idea is going to reach. That's very important to Google. Dave said, don't be confused by the number that any of these things have on the list. It's not a hierarchy. It's just a list. Some of the things at the bottom are most important to us. It's just the order that we put them down. So if you're not being emulated, you're not relevant. Profitable. No initiative should reduce your total number of users. Sometimes we think that we can cut back and cut costs or outsource. Anything that reduces the total number of people that have the availability to engage with your product or service, it's putting you on a path that will rapidly take you to the bottom. At all costs, avoid it. You can redirect, you can partner, you can realign. But when I hear or read about institutions that cut back professors, cut off engineering departments, I shudder, because it does not have to be. Beautiful. The simple elegance of approachability. Whether it's your website, your financial aid department, access to tutors. Beauty is the simple elegance of approachability. The way beauty figures into Google's products is they wanted everyone to be able to use it without being taught.